On my birthday, I planned to announce my pregnancy, but instead, my boyfriend handed me a gift box with a note that said, "I'm leaving you, you're useless. I deserve better." He walked out as everyone laughed. I just smiled, because he had no idea what I was capable of. 2 months later, he was drunk outside my house, screaming my name. I untied the silk ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, wasn't a ring. It was a single, folded piece of paper. A confused smile touched my lips as I unfolded it, my eyes scanning the words that are now permanently burned into my memory. "I'm leaving you. You're useless and I deserve better. Your stuff will be packed by Monday." I looked up at him, my brain scrambling to process this as some kind of horrific, ill-conceived joke. But his expression had completely changed. The charming, attentive mask he had worn moments before was gone, replaced by something cold, distant, and almost amused. Then he spoke, his voice loud and clear for everyone to hear. "We're done. It's been fun, but I've outgrown you." And then he laughed. Actually laughed. A few people in the room chuckled nervously, clearly thinking this was some bizarre prank we'd planned together. But then Justin turned on his heel and walked straight out the front door without another word. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood there, holding the note, the words of my pregnancy announcement dying in my throat. Our friends looked between me and the door, then back at me, waiting for me to yell, "Just kidding." But I just stood there. Our friends looked at me, a circle of confused, concerned faces, waiting for a reaction. I just smiled. Not because I wasn't devastated, Not because I wasn't humiliated, I absolutely was. But because in that moment, I realized something crucial. Justin had no idea what was coming. He thought he held all the cards, that he'd orchestrated this perfect, public execution of our relationship where he was the powerful one walking away. But he didn't know I was pregnant with his child. He didn't know that 2 weeks earlier, I'd found the secret credit card statements in his desk drawer. He didn't know I'd seen the flirty texts from M on his Apple Watch when he left it on the bathroom counter. He really should have set up 2-factor authentication. And most importantly, he didn't know that I'm not the kind of woman who falls apart when pushed. I'm the kind who gets strategic, so I smiled. I thanked everyone for coming. I assured them I was okay, I wasn't, and that they didn't need to worry about me, they did. I even cut the birthday cake Barbara had brought and passed out slices, as if we were celebrating the end of something rather than mourning it. Maria, my friend since college, left almost immediately, claiming she felt sick. Interesting timing, right? Don't worry, we'll get to her. The others stayed, helping me clean up, offering places to stay, shoulders to cry on, and alibis for murder. Kidding. Mostly. By midnight, everyone was gone except Barbara, who insisted on sleeping on my couch. Once we were alone, I finally broke down. The pregnancy, the betrayal, the humiliation, it all came crashing down at once. Barbara just held me and let me sob, not trying to fix it with empty platitudes. When I finally calmed down around 2 a.m., I told her about the pregnancy. She wasn't even surprised. She'd suspected from how I'd been acting. Then I showed her the credit card statements, charges for hotels, expensive dinners, jewelry that had never made its way to me. I showed her the screenshots of the texts to M. We both knew exactly who M was, especially after Maria's hasty exit. We talked until dawn, weighing options, making plans. Barbara asked about telling Justin about the baby, but I was firm. He'd find out eventually, but on my terms, when I was ready. As I lay in bed alone for the first time in years, one hand resting on my still flat stomach, I made 2 promises. One to my unborn child, that I would provide a stable, loving home no matter what, and one to myself, that I would emerge from this stronger than before. First update. Hey Reddit, Lily here with the promised update. Thank you for all the supportive comments. It's weird how strangers on the internet can be kinder than people you've known for years. The morning after the party, I woke up to Barbara making coffee and pancakes. Justin didn't come back that Sunday. I spent the day in a haze of numbness and rage, making lists of everything I needed to do. Financial stuff, doctor appointments, people to inform. My brain went into survival mode. Monday around noon, I got a text from Justin. I'll be by at 7 to get my things. Make sure you're not there. The audacity. I stared at it for 5 minutes before responding with a simple, No. He called, I declined. I called Barbara, who rallied our friends. By 6:30 p.m., my apartment was filled with a protective barrier of people I loved. Justin showed up at 7 on the dot. His face when he saw everyone was priceless. He tried to act tough, but Aaron, who was 6 feet 4 inches, handed him one suitcase and told him the rest would be available when he arranged a proper time and showed some basic decency. Justin tried to argue, but I spoke from the couch, calm and firm, telling him he was lucky I hadn't changed the locks yet. He left, muttering about me always needing an audience. Rich, coming from him. The next morning, I changed the locks. Confirmation about Maria came from Sergio, who texted to say he and Aaron had seen Justin and Maria together months ago but weren't sure it was innocent. The betrayal was a special kind of gut punch. I focused on practical matters. I officially confirmed my pregnancy, 10 weeks along. I spoke with a lawyer, froze our joint accounts, and opened a new one in my name. I didn't tell anyone else about the baby yet. It wasn't denial, it was strategy. 2 weeks after the party, Justin texted, asking to talk. I agreed to meet him at a public coffee shop. He looked terrible, unshaven, circles under his eyes. He launched into a half-hearted explanation about feeling unhappy and trapped. I let him ramble, then simply asked, "Is Maria making you happy?" The look on his face was pure deer-in-headlights shock. He stumbled through denials, but I cut him off. I told him I knew about Maria, the hotel charges, the jewelry. I told him he could get the rest of his stuff on Saturday with Aaron supervising, and after that, I didn't want to hear from him unless it was through my lawyer. His voice squeaked. Lawyer! He insisted we didn't need them. I stayed calm. As I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist and asked how I was going to afford the apartment alone, saying my job barely covered half the rent. And that's when it clicked. The real reason for this meeting was money. Justin had forgotten that I'd been covering more than half the rent for the past year. His income had been drying up. He'd been living beyond his means, using my steady income as a safety net while playing the successful provider to our friends and to Maria. I smiled sweetly and told him I'd manage, adding that unlike some people, I actually saved money instead of spending it on hotel rooms and jewelry. The color drained from his face. He knew I knew everything. Saturday came and went. Aaron supervised Justin collecting his things while I was at a prenatal yoga class. When I returned, the apartment felt emptier but more mine. I started rearranging furniture, reclaiming the space. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a new routine. Work, doctor appointments, careful budgeting. I wasn't just surviving, I was planning for a future. Through the gossip vine, through Sergio, I learned Justin and Maria's romance wasn't thriving. Apparently, Justin had painted himself as far more financially stable than he was. The first crack appeared about a month after our coffee shop meeting. I literally bumped carts with Maria at the grocery store. She looked startled, then guilty, then defiant. She blurted out that Justin had told her we were already separated when they started seeing each other. She said he wasn't what she thought, that he promised things he couldn't deliver. I told her that sounded like a personal problem I couldn't help her with. About 6 weeks post-breakup, I started showing. I decided it was time to be more open about the pregnancy. I told my boss, then other friends and family. I knew it would reach Justin. 7 weeks post-breakup, at 17 weeks pregnant, I received frantic texts from Justin. Is it true? Are you pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? We need to talk. I have rights, you know. I didn't respond. He texted that he was coming over. I finally replied, telling him not to come uninvited or I'd call the police, and that I would contact him when I was ready to discuss this civilly. He backed off for 2 days. Then, as foreshadowed, he showed up. It was after 11 p.m. I was in bed reading when I heard a car door slam, then pounding on my door. Justin's voice, slurred and desperate. Lily, open the door. I know you're in there. We need to talk about our baby. Then I heard crying. He was drunk and crying, alternating between demands and pleas, saying he'd made a mistake, that it was his baby too. Some small part of me felt a flicker of recognition. His grand exit strategy, his new life with Maria, none of it was working. Reality had finally caught up with him. I got up, put on a robe, and spoke through the closed door. I told him he was drunk and should go home. We could talk tomorrow when he was sober. He shouted that he needed to see me, to know if it was true. I confirmed through the door that yes, I was pregnant, and yes, it was his, but this wasn't the way. There was a thud against the door. He mumbled that Maria had left him, that she said he'd lied about everything. I said that sounded familiar. He admitted he'd messed up and begged me to let him in. I took a deep breath, one hand on my bump. I refused to let him in but offered to meet him the next day at a cafe at 10 a.m. on the condition he be sober and on time. He agreed. As he left, I heard him call a ride, one responsible thing. He texted later, "I'm sorry for everything. For the party, for the note, for tonight. I'll make it right somehow." I didn't respond. Words were easy for Justin. I needed actions. Second update. Hey Reddit, sorry for the wait. Life has been interesting. Justin did show up at the cafe the next morning at 9:55, looking like absolute trash and vibrating with nervous energy. He'd already ordered me a decaf latte, a small but telling mistake. I'd switched to herbal tea. He launched into a checklist of apologies for the humiliation, the cheating, the lies, showing up drunk. I just sipped my tea and let him talk himself out. When he finally ran out of steam, I asked the only question that mattered. What did he want? He rambled about wanting to be involved, to do the right thing, and then suggested maybe we could try again. I actually laughed at that. I laid out how things would work. Child support, custody arrangements, scheduled visits. Trust had to be rebuilt from the ground up. He got frustrated, saying I was being cold and calculated. I pointed out that his birthday note was the definition of cold and calculated. The difference was I was doing it to protect our child, while he'd done it to protect his ego. Before I left, I handed him a folder with the ultrasound photos, due date, and the child support agreement from my lawyer. I told him to review it and get back to me. As I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist and asked if Maria knew about the baby. I told him it wasn't my information to share. I removed his hand and walked out. Over the next few weeks, I focused on my life. Setting up the nursery, that IKEA crib was a nightmare, work appointments. Justin texted occasionally, asking about the baby. I kept my responses factual. Then came the incident at Target. I literally bumped carts with Maria again. This time, she looked relieved to see me. She asked about the pregnancy, genuinely interested, and then gave me a real, thoughtful apology. She explained Justin had sold her the same story he'd fed others, that we were basically over, that I was holding him back. She'd found out he was seeing someone else while with her. We ended up having coffee, tea for me. It was surreal. As we said goodbye, she mentioned casually that Justin had been let go from his job 2 weeks earlier, and she thought I should know. That evening, Justin showed up at my door, sober but rough. He asked if I'd heard about his job, claiming he was set up. Then he asked if I'd seen Maria, growing agitated, accusing us of conspiring against him. I reminded him he created the situation. That's when he broke down, saying his life was falling apart. No job, no girlfriend, an expensive apartment, and a baby he wasn't prepared for. For a brief moment, I felt the old urge to comfort him. But I remembered the words, "You're useless." Instead of comfort, I offered clarity. I told him he had two choices: continue the pity party and lose everything, or step up, take responsibility and rebuild. He actually listened. He asked to come inside to talk. I agreed but left the door open. We sat at my kitchen table, and he asked real, thoughtful questions about the baby for the first time. I realized I felt nothing romantic for him, but I did want him to be okay, for our child's sake. Before he left, he promised to review the agreement and find a new job. He thanked me for not hating him. I told him hate takes too much energy. In the following weeks, Justin found a new, lower-paying but steadier job. He signed the child support agreement. He enrolled in a parenting class. At 7 months pregnant, I received a package from him. Inside was a simple journal. The note said, "For your thoughts, plans, and all the true crime podcast notes you want to write. You were never useless. I was just too self-absorbed to see your value." I didn't respond, but I did start using the journal. Final update. Hey Reddit fam. A lot has happened. Little Zoe arrived 6 weeks ago, weighing 7 pounds 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and her father's chin. Labor was 32 hours long. During it, I kept thinking about how much I'd changed since that birthday party. Justin was actually at the hospital, which surprised everyone. He showed up with a massive, doorframe scraping teddy bear. He stayed, mostly hovering awkwardly. Barbara was my rock. When Zoe was finally placed on my chest, I had a moment of pure clarity. Every step led to her. Justin cried when he held her, real, genuine, ugly tears. The most honest emotion I'd seen from him in years. The first weeks home were a blur of diapers, feeding struggles, and sleep deprivation. My mom came to help. Justin has been surprisingly present, visiting 3 times a week. He brings useful things like diapers, and ridiculous things like a tiny leather jacket for a 6-week-old. Our co-parenting relationship is evolving. There's tension when he's late, but there are also good moments, like when he researched remedies and brought me cabbage leaves for a clogged milk duct. Financially, things are stable. He pays child support on time. I renewed my lease in just my name. The apartment is now mine, painted a sage green, the first love. Maria and I still run into each other. She seems happy with a new, bearded boyfriend. I genuinely hope she is. Justin is still struggling. His new job isn't great, and he lives in a depressing studio apartment. Sometimes I catch him looking around my place with something like nostalgia and regret. The weirdest development is his apparent growth. He's seeing a therapist, reading parenting books, joined a dad group on Facebook. My own life has taken turns too. My part-time work from home came through a connection from Sergio. It's good work I can do while Zoe naps. And then there's Eli. He's a grocery delivery guy who kept bringing my orders during the chaotic early weeks. He started adding little notes with recommendations or dad jokes. One day, he helped me carry in my groceries, and we started talking. He's finishing his degree, delivers groceries to pay the bills, and helps with his sister's kids. We've been texting and he's come for coffee. It's nothing serious, but it's nice to talk to an adult about something other than baby stuff. Justin saw Eli leaving once, and his face was complicated. He asked about him later, making a comment about me moving on fast before catching himself. Barbara thinks I should go for it, but I'm taking it day by day. Zoe is my priority. Yesterday was my birthday. 1 year since the box. Instead of dwelling, I had a small gathering. Justin stopped by to drop off a gift, a thoughtful bracelet with Zoe's birthstone, but didn't stay. As I looked around my apartment, at my friends, at my daughter sleeping peacefully, I felt an unexpected gratitude. I don't know what the future holds, with Eli, with Justin, with where we'll live. But I do know I'm not the same woman who stood holding that note. That woman was shattered but determined. This woman is rebuilt, stronger at the broken places. The moral of this long, messy story is that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best version of yourself. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. P.S. That giant teddy bear? It serves as a barricade to keep Zoe from rolling off my bed. So it found its purpose. The infamous breakup note? I kept it. It's in a memory box in Zoe's closet, along with her hospital bracelet and first lock of hair. Someday, when she's old enough, we'll tell her the whole story. It's part of her history, too.